Hey guys, it's Whitney again, and today we are going to be talking about the Kat Von D Saint and Sinner palette. The front is gorgeous, meant to look like a cathedral windows, if I'm not mistaken. So you gotta open it up, and I think the package is absolutely gorgeous. So when you open it up, this is what you have. You have the mirrors. Try not to blind you guys with everything. You have your mirrors and your colors. And a lot of people don't like this because of the color scheme and the way that it's laid out. I, however, do. So I like the palette and the colors. I cannot get a full eye look out of this. I can if I want it to be super bright, but really the only transition shade options you have are the shades Martyr and Devil, and you can't do anything with it. I mean, just those two. So what I'm going to do, because we're going to do a tutorial on it, I'm going to also dip into a palette that a lot of people love, the Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette, because what I'm going to do is a smoky sunset eye, oranges, reds, yellows of that nature, and dark browns. And so I thought this palette, specifically this color, would complement our Kat Von D palette very well. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Urban Decay eyeshadow primer in the original shade. I gotta get a mirror to do this. Sorry. I'm going to put this all over my lids. And then I'm going to take my finger and just blend that out like such. And I already have my makeup on, my bronzer, contour, and my base, my foundation, powder, primer, concealer, and I have my eyebrows on. And the reason my fingernail looks horrible is because it almost snapped in half. So I had to fix that guy a little bit, you know? So, okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to swatch the colors we're going to use. I do not like to swatch colors because you really can't get a good idea of how the palette's going to look. If that's something you all would like to see in the future, I'll be more than happy to do that. But just for this one, I'm not going to do it. And like I said, if you guys prefer it, I will do it. Just for me personally, swatches don't tell a lot for me, you know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip into the color Devil, that orange. I'm going to just run that back and forth just like that. Pretty patchy. But it's a swatch, guys. It matters how it looks on your eye, not so much that. Then we are also going to dip into the shade Crucifix, this dark chocolate brown. Yeah, let's do that a second time. I love the way the palette looks and a lot of the colors that come in the palette, but I don't feel like there's a good enough color story for this palette to be $60, which is what I paid. Since it's limited edition, you can't get it anymore. So it's going to cost you probably $150 to buy one from somebody used. Do not buy it. I do not get rid of it because I like to keep it in my collection because it's pretty. I keep my stuff with beautiful packaging out to show it off because I love how it looks, you know? Okay, so I'm going to open up my Jaclyn Hill palette, this guy, and I'm taking my Morphe 504 brush, and I think that I'm going to dip into the shade. Mine does not have the shade names on it, but I'm going to dip into this guy right here. Dip, dip, dip. Tap, tap, tap. Grab my mirror because I don't have my mirror directly in front of me. And then I'm trying to fix everything. And then I'm just going to run that in my top part of my crease. Like such. And work that like that. And that's going to be our first transition shade, guys. I'm going to dip that in again. I'm going to I like to wing mine out because I have very slanted, straighter color eyes, so I like to bring everything up. So I pull it underneath my eyebrow, and I'd say like a 1/4 of an inch farther out and tilt it up. And then I just keep running, running, running. Like such. And now that we have that blended out on both of our eyes, I darkened my camera a little bit so you all could see like my bake and where I've actually done my makeup. And then next I'm going to pick up this shade. It's yellow mustardy color on a Morphe 518. I'm going to dip, 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 tap, tap, tap. And this is probably my favorite shade out of the entire Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put that right under that first color. Because if there's one thing I've learned from watching Jaclyn Hill and everybody else, it's better to layer colors and blend. Now that I've been doing my makeup for a little while and I've actually really buckled down and learned how to do my makeup well. So we're just going to blend that out. And it's not going to be like a huge difference. You're not going to tell right away. But I'm going to put a second little layer on that. Bring that out too. Just like we did the first color. Work that up. And blend, blend, blend into everything. Gonna dip back in. Knock it off. Blend that guy in. And you could also do this with the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette as well. If you guys have that palette instead, because I have both. So we could also mix the oranges and browns and everything in it to use along with this palette. I can do the palette by itself without using a secondary palette. But I do not want to do like a bright green look today. But I'm going, after I finish doing this series, going to do an all color series. And by that I mean I'm going to do an all purple look, all blue, all green. So that way, because I like a good color story. And I'll be mixing palettes, my brighter palettes, and we're going to do color. But today, I'm trying to make this guy just a beautiful but wearable. Everybody likes a warm sunset look. So then my next brush I'm going to dip into is going to be my Morphe 441. And I'm going to go ahead and pick up the shade, the orange shade Devil right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip that in. And this is going to be our main crease color. Like, look how pigmented that is. It's going to be our main crease color, guys. So then we're going to take it and place it. And it's going to be blown out. Like my brush that I use. Yeah, I got there. I was making sure I got the right brush. Because I have a couple of the Morphe white brushes. Which in my opinion, if you're able to, get the natural hair bristles like this 504 that I was using. So the white ones, they work. But if I would have known what I know now, I wouldn't have bought all these white ones. I would have went and just spent the little extra money. Like it's like $1 more for the natural hair sets. So I definitely would have done that instead of what I do now. And that's all. I use these white ones. But they come in handy. I mean, they really do. And all I'm doing with this one is doing windshield bopper motions in the crease. And I'm not dragging this color out, if you guys can see. I just have it all around. And don't worry about it looking crazy now. We're going to go back in and blend out the edges. Because this is going to be harsh. A harsh line. But this is a sunset look, guys. So we need that orange transition. And I love this orange color. Out of this entire palette, I love bright oranges and bright yellows. I would love to come out with not so much my makeup line, but eyeshadows, and have an all yellow palette. maybe half all yellows and half oranges. So that way, because you know you need certain shades of certain colors. Like, I don't have a very light orange shade, or I would definitely be using it with this look. And that's something I think that people would like to have, is the a palette like that with different colors. So I'm going to go back in now with the second shade we used, which was this guy. I'm going to blend out the edges through here, the top, with that. It's going to get a tiny bit more on my brush. Knock that off. And all I like to do is flip mine up like this, guys. And get the edges like this to blend it out. So that way I'm not putting the entire brush down, but I can blend out the edges. You don't want to put a lot of pressure on. And whenever you do a colorful look, you really don't want to do your eyeshadow or your base first. But as you guys can tell, I packed on a lot of powder to catch fallout. So it's okay if we bring it down a little too far or anything. That powder is going to fix that for us. So we're just going to keep blending the edges out on this guy. And as you guys can now tell, there's a big difference in the blending on this eye compared to this eye. I'm going to dip back into that color, wipe that guy off, and I'm going to work on this eye, blending the edges on him. So we are blending, blending, blending. And then sometimes I do have to lay my brush down flat on my eye to get that guy nice and blended. Okay, so now we've done that, I'm going to go in with a Morphe 433 brush in the first shade we used in the Jaclyn Hill palette, which was this guy. And I'm going to put that at the very top of the yellow to help blend the gradient out just a little bit more. So it's not so harsh up here. There we go. Now she's going. I'm just going to do that on both of our eyes. Okay, and then next I'm going to keep using, you know what guys, I'm going to go into my smaller brush. So I'm going to start packing on my end lid shade. If I can find one real quick. I'm just twirling around my little brush holder right now, trying to look for a good brush that I know that I want to use to do this with. I'm going to take make sure I don't have old eyeshadow on it. This is from a BH Cosmetics brush. It's like a almost kind of thicker pencil brush, if you guys can tell. Yeah. So, but what I'm going to do is now I'm going to go into that shade Crucifix, that really dark brown right there. And I'm going to start packing that guy on my outer V. Gotta throw this curly hair somewhere. And my eyes are two different shapes, so I will be putting a lot more on the outer of this eye versus my other eye. Just work that into the crease just a tad bit. And right now I'm just packing it a little bit on the outer too, because I'm not going to blow this look out that much, because the orange and then the metallics from the Kat Von D Saint Center palette we put on it, it's going to be enough to stand out. You guys know what I mean. Okay, and after we have both of those packed on the outer, I'm going to go back in with that Morphe 433 brush, and I'm just going to barely blend out the edges of this brown right here. I am very lightly touching it. What I do is I take the excess on my arm, kind of like that, and I just lightly blend out the edges. And I also drag it out just a little bit, like so. make it just a little bit less harsh on there for us. Keep working on this guy now. Okay, so now that we're done with that, we are going to work on getting the crease right here, like such. Just barely going to run our brush, like right, what I do is I put the middle of the brush right here and I kind of dead center it, and I just barely do very tiny movements back and forth to mix in the orange and the brown that we did. Because I just don't want there to be a huge harsh line, you know. Okay, and then now that I've done that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with a Morphe 421 brush. It's a flat shader brush from Morphe. I'm going to pick up the shade. What do we want to do? I'm going to pick up the shade Stigmata down here, this red shade. And I'm going to pack that on the outer 2/3, so from here probably to about over here with the red shade Stigmata. So I'm going to get some of that on my brush. I'm going to spray it with my Milani Make It Last spray. Whenever I spray stuff, I don't use my MAC Fix Plus because that stuff's not cheap. So I use my cheaper sprays to pack eyeshadow on with. So then we're going to take that and we're going to start packing it like such. There we go. I'm going to get a little bit more of that shade. Not a little bit, a lot of it, because it doesn't hold very well. I'm going to get that shade and start doing, and I like to put mine almost all the way up to my crease. There we go. And I just want to make sure that it blends in with that brown on the edges. Like such. I'm just moving my brush back and forth of what's left on it. I don't want to put a whole lot on it. I just want it to blend. And what I do is I take the very tip top of the brush and just run it through my crease like this. Just like that. I'm still getting used to only looking at the recording part of the camera, but I think I'm getting a little bit better, guys. I think I'm getting a whole lot better at it the more, because I'm not consciously always thinking about it. I just know that I have to do it. So, yeah. Okay, guys. Then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my J-Cat Beauty sponge cleaner and I'm going to clean that brush off. Because where this brush is so small, I also like to use it for my inner corner parts as well. So I'm just going to clean all that off again. And then we are going to go into the shade Relic. This beautiful, it's like a bright yellow gold. So we're going to run the brush through that guy. I have my palette set over here, guys. I'm going to spray it a little bit more, my brush. And then I'm just going to start packing this guy right here on the inner corner part of my eye. And then we're going to do that with both eyes. After you have that laid down kind of, I just take my brush, move my mirror up. I just take my brush and blend it in a little bit on the edges to make sure that it's good and mixed. So the edges aren't really too bad pushed together, you know what I mean. Then what I'm going to do next, I'm going to go in with a Morphe 507. It's from the same collection as this 504 that I used, but it's the smallest one in the collection. I'm going to make sure this guy's clean. And then what I'm going to do is to get our orange back in the crease. I'm going to go back in with the shade Devil right here. And I'm just barely putting that on the tip right there. And I'm going to knock some of that off. And then I'm going to take it into the crease and run it back right into the crease. And that will also help you get out your whatever shimmers you got in the crease as well. So all we're doing is livening that back up with the shade Devil. We're going to dip our brush back in. And I just slowly build mine up until I have the orange, the shade, or as bright as I want it to be. And then we're just going to do the same thing on the second eye. Okay, after we have both the shade Devil put down in our crease, I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to do a wing liner and put on my Lily Lashes X Sephora in the shade, or I'm sorry, not the shade, the style Miami. And I'm going to be using my Ofra eyeliner gel black. If I can get this thing to focus. Oh my gosh, focus, dude. I can't get it focus, but that's what I'm doing, and I'll be back in just a second with my eyes almost done. Okay, so while went off camera, I did my eyelashes, my eyeliner, my bronzer, my highlight, and my blush, and my lipstick. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we are going to line our lower lash line. So the first thing I'm going to do is go into the Jaclyn Hill palette, and I'm going to take our first color we used and our second color. And I'm going to grab that Morphe M433 brush. I'm going to wipe it off in my cleaner, or you can just use your arm like I do. And I'm going to just go back and forth, mixing those two together. And then I'm going to get on my so with this hair bag. And I'm going to go, and the way you want to remember it is almost like your transition shade. So what you use all the way up top is what you're going to use first on bottom. So whatever's lightest can go farther over and lower down. And as you go darker, you want to go higher up to your eye and closer to the edge over here. So that way, you know, you can blow your eyeshadow out on the bottom. But for today's look, we don't want to do that. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting mine right here in the crease. That main crease right here. Like such. Okay. And it's just a hint of color. It's nothing too, like, ridiculous, whatever. So then what I'm going to do next, if I can find my little tiny brush, is I'm going to go in with this little tiny BH Cosmetics number 7 brush from the Rose Marbled collection, and I've already cleaned it off on my brush cleaner. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with that orange that we put in our crease. I'm just going to take a very little bit of that, go down here on my lash line, like such. And I'm just going to very gently blend that out. Okay, and then next what we're going to do is I'm going to go in with a Morphe 560 brush. It's just a tiny pencil brush. It's got a pretty firm tip on it. And I'm going to go into that brown shade in the Kat Von D that we put over here called Crucifix. And I'm going to line my waterline with it. Pretty much where the hairs go. And I'm going to connect it to my wing out here on the side. I'm going to run that through, and I'm just going to keep darkening it up. And I only bring mine about halfway over. So that's how I do mine. And then I'm going to go in. Keep working that guy. Okay. And then I'm going to take my Jante Blue, I got this in a BoxyCharm, and line my eyes with it. I'm going to do this off camera. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I'll put my eyeliner and my mascara on. Got my lips, everything else done. So then the last thing we need to do is we need to brighten up the inner corner and do up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pencil brush, if I can find one. And I'm going to take a Morphe M431. It's a white pencil brush. I'm going to clean that on my brush cleaner. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the shade Amen up here. I'm going to line that under my brow bone. And I always blend mine out. I bring some over and down. Okay, and then for the inner corner, I think I'm going to take my highlighter that I used, because there's not real, no, we won't. We'll go to the Jaclyn Hill palette and we'll finish that up. We'll take this second shade over right here, pack that on our pencil brush, get that guy off a little bit, and take it in our inner corner right here. And I like to bring mine down a little bit like such. Do the same on this side. And I like to blend mine out a little bit, just to get it, you know, I'm going to deepen it. And we're going to throw in our setting spray. And this is the finished look. So, all in all, with the Kat Von D palette, you can do very bright, colorful looks, but it's not so much in every day. If you have it, I would say I keep mine mainly for the look at the actual palette, and whenever I need a certain color, I can dip in it. But as far as a full color story, you can't go into it. So, that being said, you all have a great day, and I'll see you next time.